It's a pleasure to talk about this film because it's so thought-provoking for whoever's going to watch it. So, first of all, what informed the style of it? Obviously, the book is a huge inspiration, but on screen, it's always different.
Well, it was the book. I mean, when I was filming each day, I would consult the book. And I would also consult the writer. She was 12 hours away in another time zone. So I knew that every night, if I loaded up my communicator with questions, when I woke up in the morning, miraculously there would be the answers, and they were. So all the way from the script through casting, costumes, the design of the film, you know, I had my secret agent, consultant.
Does it look the way you imagined it? You know, obviously writing is all about imagination.
Some things look different. The community looks a little different from what I imagined because I was picturing the communities in which I grew up, which were military bases, very rigid, orderly communities. But they were a thing of the past, and of course the book is set in the future. So what Philip envisioned and his set designers created was a modernistic concept of the same rigid, orderly community that I remembered.
Because, you know, the story is all about the, you know, thinking of a world without many emotions, and actors are very emotional people. So how was that a challenge to bring actors and make them emotionless?
Well, it was a challenge. They had to sort of remove something for a part of their performance. Some of them did. But without doing that, we never would have seen the change that took place between two of the central characters who do change.
Yeah.
But some of the other characters too, I think. Katie Holmes, for example, an enormous but subtle change in her.
There is a subtle change, but it's towards the end.
Yes, yeah.
And the Meryl Streep character and a little bit of the mystery surrounding.
Oh, she's a
her
very
emotional
complex
past.
character. And she's not that in the book. I love seeing it in the movie. I wish I'd put it in the book.
Well, this is a great example of when you find the right actors for the characters, they bring an added pathos, right, to who they portray.
And Philip was instrumental in finding just the right actors for each character.
What do you think about that? That actors can, you know, morph a character in a way that might be also unexpected.
Totally. I mean, when we see Meryl Streep explaining the reasons why she supports this very peculiar community and the rules and lifestyle that have evolved, even though logically and emotionally we don't agree with her, you can't help but be engaged and almost persuaded by what she's saying, and this is because of her, you know, enormous ability as an actor.
Yeah.
And it takes away from her being a villain, almost makes her a oddly sympathetic character that she's been caught in this and seduced by it.
From a writer's point of view, how do you feel? Obviously, you know, writing a book is like, you know, it's your baby, you know, one's very protective of their writing. When it goes on the big screen, it has a different element to it that has a lot of positives, but are there negatives? Seeing your baby grow up.
Well, it's not unlike seeing your baby grow up, and I had 4 of them, so I know what that is like. You do the best you can with it when it's young and malleable, and then you let it go. And in this case, I let it go. I tossed it over to very competent hands.
And how did you feel when you saw it?
I was delighted. It was like seeing the pieces, which I had seen. I had seen bits and pieces of it throughout the process, and suddenly it was all put together the way one puts together a jigsaw puzzle. And there's the whole picture emerging. And it's beautiful to look at, and it's interesting to think about. Everything about it works, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I haven't read the book, but I will now. And I had no expectations. I thought it was so engaging, thought-provoking, but not at all in a daunting way. Was that your intention? The tone of the film is not condescending in any way?
Well, that's always what you hope. You hope that, you know, complex questions will be asked. You hope that complex emotions will be engaged. You hope that the sense of adventure will be evoked, but you never know. I mean, and you hope that it all goes together in a way that really pleases an audience. But it's as Lois has said, even more than writing, a movie is a jigsaw because every scene is shot out of order, and then finally you assemble them and look at the picture that you've created.
Yeah, it's true. And that you feel kind of filmmaking has a lot of feeling attached to it. Let's talk about Brandon and what a discovery I think this young actor is.
Yeah, well, I had heard about this young actor for many years. Word spreads, particularly as I'm Australian and he's Australian, so I'd heard about this young guy from the north of Australia, far north as we call it, FNQ, far northern Queensland, who was emerging from acting school up there. And then about 2 years ago, I screen tested him, not for this movie, but for another movie that I was thinking of making, and was knocked out. So I called him up and got him to come in and test for The Giver. I think he was even more appropriate for this film, because although he has, a marvelous masculinity, movie star looks, he has a great vulnerability.
Yes.
An innocence. Maybe that comes from growing up in Australia. I don't know, but he has this real innocent quality that was absolutely essential for, in a way, the empty vessel that he is at the beginning of the movie, that's then filled with all these feelings and experiences as the story progresses.
I think the movie describes a little bit human being as, volcanoes, and I think it's very true. At some point, something's going to come out.
Oh, interesting analogy.
Yeah.
All of that bubbling inside, coming to the surface, and Brenton conveys that well, I think.
And they all do. I mean, although, it's very subtle, as we spoke about their changes, they all have this kind of volcanic eruption that is just waiting to come out. How did the world construct itself? Was it obviously always going to be, starting out in black and white? And what are the challenges of
Yes, the
filming?
movie was always going to start out in black and white and change
book
from black
does
and white
too.
to colour because the book does.
It's all about the absence of color.
Yeah. Colour's been eliminated in order to eliminate competition. Who's wearing white? Who's wearing blue? No such question.
Yeah.
And in order to eliminate prejudice, not such a bad thing. But as Jonas learns about and increases his perception, so the colour palette that he's exposed to starts to increase until eventually the movie ends up in full colour.
Yeah. And ginger hair. which is
Would they have been able to do that 20 years ago? Had they made the movie then?
Yeah.
That's true.
Was
They
the
would've.
Technology?
20,
I remember
30
Schindler's
30
List
years ago,
included the red.
I made a film that was in black and white and colour called Newsfront. It was my first feature.
Okay, I
Yeah.
don't know that one. Yeah.
Yeah, also about memory.
Really?
It's about newsreel cameramen and the newsreels that they made back in the 1940s and 50s in Australia.
Wow. Is it available? Can I
Yeah,
see?
yeah, Newsfront.
Okay.
Nice front. We'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
Question about, the actors working together on this film. Was there a sense of closed community like the story is?
Very much, particularly between Brenton, the receiver of memory, and his mentor, the giver, played by Jeff Bridges. We tried to film their scenes in chronological order so that on and off the screen they could grow closer together, and I think that really comes across. You just feel the bonds increasing, until they have almost a father-son relationship by the end of the movie. I think that was because of very careful scheduling.
Yeah, no, it does work. You do feel the relationship growing. That was really interesting. If this world was where, a world where emotion was absent, what would you miss most? What emotions would lack? Obviously, everyone answers love. Which is the obvious.
That takes all forms, but as a mother, what I would miss most in the book and the movie, the babies are produced almost factory-like and then presented to couples who are selected to join each other. And that's what I would miss, the whole concept of parenthood, motherhood, the love of a parent and child.